for me to be able to say that I'm certified, I'm dietetic technician registered, like I am good. Like I studied this, I have a credential, I'm very strong. We would honestly, I would call myself a nutrition expert at this time. I was like, I'm a nutrition expert, and you have to sell it because to them, I mean, compared to what they're doing, I'm talking to the finance, the CFO, I'm talking to the superintendent. To them, I am a nutrition expert.
Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet where NDTR shine. I'm your host, Marie Lorraine, and I love it when I get to connect with NDTRs via Instagram and social media. And today's guest reached out to me in response to a meme that I posted. And she shared with me that after 6 years of being an NDTR, she recently applied to a dietetic internship and got accepted. And it wasn't just any dietetic internship, it was a paid one. So if you know anything about dietetic internships, you know it's extremely competitive. And the ones that pay are almost impossible to get. But today we have an NDTR who got accepted into a program. Her name is Almarie. She has a certification as a master gardener, a serve safe manager. She currently works as a nutrition purchasing manager. You can find her on Instagram at OEasy Nutrition. And she has experience in food service, community and public health, nutrition informatics. She has a degree from Arizona State University, and she's here to share her journey as a DTR for 6 years and shine a little bit of light on what's to come for her in the future. So Almarie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is a very exciting opportunity.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled that you were willing just to share a bit of your kind of story with me. And so I'm so excited to dig deeper and really hear the details, because I know after that 5 year of being a DTR, it's just so much more work to go back into school and to do the RD exam and whatnot, and that dietetic internship. So I feel like you have a wealth of knowledge for us, and we're going to pull everything we can out of you. But we do have to start with the traditional question of, how did you find out about the NDTR credential?
Well, I was in the dietetics program at Arizona State, and I think I was a senior, and I realized how much money would go into the internship and the fact that you didn't work during the time that you were in the internship. It just seemed like I was just going to keep getting in a larger debt. So as an opportunity to kind of use my knowledge and apply it, I decided to just take the exam, sit in the exam. And after taking it, I passed it. It was really nice. And it's been useful throughout my career, especially in food service management.
Passing on the first try, congrats. That doesn't always happen. And I totally relate with that, like the debt and the cost of everything. It's so unrealistic for a lot of people. So you took the exam, and so then what happened next for you?
So when I took the exam, I was already working as an intern for a food service management company. And it was a 6-month internship. It was a paid internship. It was $8 an hour. I was practically a cafeteria lady for 6 months, but they actually allowed me to work for them in Phoenix at a school district as their farm to school coordinator. And I was able to use my dietetic technician, certification to educate the students about healthy eating, gardening, and then piecing it all together and learning how to manage people, which was probably the hardest part since our degree doesn't really cover too much of leadership and management.
Yeah, there's like one class and it's like, oh, this is interesting. That sounds like
Yeah.
a really interesting job. So that sounds like, was it in school nutrition, or like where did it fit in, and what resources did you use to be able to complete that job successfully?
Yeah, so I think once I got into the internship program, it was just like, hey, we're taking pretty much cafeteria ladies and teaching them to be better leaders. And it was through SFE, Southwest Food Service Excellence, which are based out of Arizona. And it was a brand new program that they had come up with at that year, and I participated in. But right after the program ended, they just offered me a position. During my time in college, though, I was very involved in the gardening club for Arizona State. So I was a vice president and event chair. So I knew I had a passion for gardening, and receiving that job allowed me to not only work with my passions for gardening, but it pushed me to enroll in that master gardening program for Maricopa County. So then it gave me the knowledge that I needed to be able to I built 7 school gardens, implemented educational curriculum for students in 1 year, implemented a composting system utilizing ecovyms, and then connected, farm to table techniques every single day with the students.
That that sounds like a dream job for someone who loves nutrition and sustainability. It's like
Oh
that's
yeah.
amazing. How did the people respond to the gardening, and how does a gardening system like that in a school continue? Like how is it sustainable?
Yeah, so, it was my first job and I didn't realize how lucky and blessed I was for the opportunity. Working in school districts as assistant director of nutrition and as a farm to school coordinator, I realized that I just happened to land a job that was created for me because they had excess funds due to the location, which is usually pertains to the free and reduced percentage, which is how many students are that are low income. So the more students that are in low income, you're going to have a little bit more resources to get some of these programs involved into the schools. So they utilize that extra money to hire me, create the position, and to fund these pretty elite programs that are very hard to get, hard to manage long term for any school director. You probably know how hard it is to get someone to check on your garden. So, in reality, in order to make that happen, they needed a specialized person that would do this, maintain it, and integrate it with the school and education curriculum. So, I kind of started that entire program from scratch. And I became, for my entire company, we were the only school district in the nation doing that, and I was leading it. So it was the most incredible thing. And not only did it succeed, which was a lot of work, I'm not gonna lie, but then they promoted me and I was able to do that again here in Texas when I became director of nutrition at Azle ISD for 3 years.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. I don't know if the audience is hearing this, but that's a DTR doing this job and like really changing so much. I can't even like wrap my mind around all of that, that you're able to do so much for the school. And so what was this transition from Arizona to Texas with that
Yeah,
other
so
role?
after I worked, that whole year, it was just 1 year, which is crazy. I did the internship. It was January to May. Then in June, they were like, "We're hiring you. We're creating this job for you." And pretty much by next June, they were like, "We are trying to expand our company in Texas, and we need what you're doing over there. Thanks for setting it up for us. We can manage it now. Now you've created it. Now go copy and paste it in Texas." So pretty much got moved to Texas, left all my family, friends, moved practically alone over here, and ran a school district out of age 24. And it had 11 schools, and I fed over 6,000 students. So it was a very intense.
Wow. Yeah. So the role was a nutrition director, and so you were able to also do that gardening passion that you had on
It
top of.
was, yeah, it was in my later years. So that was year 3, because when you first take over an account, especially taking over from another management company, you're coming in, cleaning up, training, and really building those relationships with the staff. So that's why I say leadership is probably the hardest part, especially coming out of the dietetics degree and even taking the DTR test. It doesn't really talk about the personal relationships you're building with your employees, right? Especially if you're trying to be in a leadership role. So I have all this nutrition knowledge, and now suddenly I'm practically a psychiatrist. I'm like, okay, so let's sit down. Let's talk about, why did she do that? And how did that make you feel? And why did you decide to tell her that? So then I'm suddenly dealing with HR issues every single day, building those relationships, hiring the right people. And once I got all that figured out, then I was able to slowly introduce my passions. And I used my staff to help me. I found a lady who loved gardening, and I was like, "We're going to move you to that school. That school has some kind of a garden, someone abandoned." And we chipped at it. We cleaned it up. We applied for grants. We had people come in, moms, parents, everyone chip in a little bit, and we got it started. So it did take a lot more work being a director, because you have a lot more responsibilities. So I couldn't just manage the garden and check out a few schools, say hi, and teach some kids. I had to manage it was 70 employees. So 70 employees. And then I had to put away my little passions aside. But once I figured the employees out, they helped me kind of create my passion of sustainability and integrating that education with the students.
Yeah, it sounds like you led that really well by like learning who you were working with and then feeding into their strengths, like your example of that lady who liked to garden and bringing that in.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you know pointed to the fact that sometimes you have to just deal with people before you can let your passion and let change really happen. So it
Yeah.
kind of shows how you were successful with that. With the garden though, how did that benefit the school? Was there enough produce? What did you do with the produce from the garden?
Yeah, so we didn't have enough produce to just like use it every day for food. But what I did do was teach the kids, how to plant their seeds. And I would ideally ask 10 to 12 students to join me at different times of the semester from a certain grade level or class, depending kind of where I was. And I would just pretty much say, hey, can you give me your top 10 students that have been behaving well, like perfect attendance or whatever it is. And it was a reward program for them to get involved in the garden. So that was a plus because you're already embracing, like you're teaching the students that are excelling and you're pumping the other kids so they can do good because they want to go play with dirt. So
Yeah.
once, yeah, 'cause dirt is fun. But once
Right.
we had them put the little seeds down, then we do another class, and the other class would kind of water it and pull weeds, and then the other class would harvest it. And that last class would then take the food and we would take it to the cafeteria, and we did a culinary class. So we would clean, wash it, and make a meal with it together. And if we had a little bit extra, we would put it on the salad bar for the students to eat the next day. So if they came for lunch, you can have some kale or some radishes from our garden.
That is invaluable. I see clients as a dietitian now and they just don't know how to cook. They haven't tried vegetables. So being able to do that as a student, like that, you definitely changed some lives, not to sound dramatic, but to be dramatic, because some people just don't have experience with that. They don't even know how to cut a cucumber. They're like, what is this? So that's
Yes.
awesome. I love that you said that it gives them a reason to do better and to get better and whatnot. How is your NDTR credential? So you said you had a lot of learning with the leadership and stuff, but just with the education and the continual education and all of that, how was upholding that credential? Was it beneficial for you? Was it helpful for you in this role? And how?
Yeah, I think it was helpful because when I'm meeting with leaders from the school district, especially my age, very young, they want someone who understands what they're talking about. They want someone with experience. And for me to be able to say that I'm certified, I'm dietetic technician registered, like I am good. Like I studied this, I have a credential, I'm very strong. We would honestly, I would call myself a nutrition expert at the time. I was like, I'm a nutrition expert, and you have to
Yeah.
sell it because to them, I mean, compared to what they're doing, I'm talking to the finance, the CFO, I'm talking to the superintendent. To them, I am a nutrition expert. And so
Mhm.
having that expertise and being able to use it on a pinch, like I would do career days for the school districts where I would talk to the kids about what is it like to have a career in nutrition and get them excited about fruits and veggies. I would do like training with high schoolers, and I would work with the culinary chef that would train them on their Pro Start curriculum. So he would have a class where he would invite me, and then I would just talk about the nutrition benefits of the fruits and vegetables and phytochemicals. So I was able to involve myself in the curriculum with my expertise as a leader in the school district.
That's so invaluable. It's crazy. I was at a fair where we're talking, or just a business fair, and we were at a high school and we are talking to a teacher who teaches health, and she ended up coming into our clinic, and the nutrition stuff she knew was not at all good. Like it wasn't good. And this was the health teacher. And not to speak bad about health teachers or anything, but just to point out that, like you're saying, you are a nutrition expert and like you need that, that degree, that certification to really solidify that. Just reading a book or being a health coach or a health teacher doesn't necessarily mean that you have that nutrition knowledge. So,
Right. And there's so, if I had more time and if I spend more time at that district continuing to kind of build something bigger, I can see even more ways where DTR or an RD can continue to expand the programs, having, when the parent teacher conferences parent teacher conferences happen, being there, having a booth, which I had a couple times, but I would have liked to have done it more, where I'm just giving out pamphlets to parents on how they can do some healthy cooking with their kids, and utilizing the backpack program. And when the parents come pick up the backpacks, offering some kind of nutrition education there as well. So there's more that you can do, but when you're trying to lead and put out fires and play whack-a-mole, it's kind of hard to implement that unless you have a really strong team, and that takes a long time. But I currently am in a different role. I work at a hospital now with RDs, and I say that my DTR credential is probably used even more, but at a different level, completely different level.
okay. Okay, so what was the transition? What made you say goodbye to this community nutrition field and then jump into a completely different category of nutrition in the
Yeah, it
clinical
was
setting?
honestly, yeah, it was a sad story. I was a management company, and at the time I just wasn't supported. I needed more support to really completely do everything I wanted. Not that I was asking for something crazy. I just needed some HR support on some circumstances. And I felt like the culture really wasn't there for me. At the district level, I was 100% there. The culture there was amazing, but just who was paying me, I definitely didn't agree. And so I realized that I want to work for a local job. I want to have a local job. I want to offer my intelligence and my skills to someone here locally. I realized I'm not a person that's here to make money. I am not a salesperson. That's not my thing. My thing is community health and helping people. So I decided to apply, and I got into a job at the local county hospital here in Fort Worth. And I work in the nutrition department as a purchasing manager. So it was a little bit of a step down, but it is a self-operated business versus being a management company managing it. And so I do see the complete differences in culture, and I feel like I'm in a better place now.
So what would you say the benefits are from switching to a job that isn't managed else, like with an outside source?
Yeah, profit, nonprofit, and
Yeah.
then yeah, management company, management company. There's a lot. So if you're looking for a place to grow quickly, especially coming out of college, especially with an NDTR credential, apply for a management company because you can grow quick. Those people are like expanding, they want to move you up, they want to coach you, educate you. So I think I had the best luck, and I just got into a good job where I was able to shine, and they were able to teach me as fast as I needed to. So, but when it came to the whole financial part of making more money, cutting costs, I personally didn't. It just didn't line up with my beliefs. And
Mhm.
now going to self-operated world, it is less structure. I mean, it's all homemade. That's how I like to see it. Everything is
All
homemade.
homemade. That's
All
good.
homemade. Before you had this like website that you put information in, it's all fancy, it's from corporate, right? Now it's
Mhm.
like, hey, I made a spreadsheet. Can you like fill it out? I just made it. You can edit it if you want. I didn't block the cells. Okay, it's
Yeah.
cool. So it's all very homemade work. It's not a
Mhm.
lot of structure. It can be a little chaotic, but it gives you that freedom to really expand what you want to do. And it really allows you to work with that community closer and have a bigger impact because you don't have as many barriers. You don't have to get approvals from like 5 different, VPs to do one thing to have a brand new pizza flavor. I could just be like, hey, I'm gonna just serve this new pizza flavor next week. I'm gonna make a sign and I'm gonna cost it out and we're good. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
And that's it. So
It
it
sounds
does
like
give
more
you a little bit of
creativity.
flexibility.
Yeah, and creativity in the job. And you mentioned that you're using your NDTR credential more in this position. And so can you explain what a purchase manager, nutrition manager does and how where the nutrition component of it is? Just dumb it down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, first I didn't even know. When I applied, I'm like, I know how to order, I know how to do these things. But once you get into it, you're like, oh, okay, got it. So a nutrition purchasing manager is in charge of procurement, which is pretty much I decide what products I'm going to use for what recipes. So I work together with the chef. I worked with a retail manager, I work with an RD, and I work with a patient services manager. We all work together and we have multiple goals. And I am the centerpiece that connects all their ideas. So a chef goes like, this turkey sucks. I'm like, all right, let me get in touch with some vendors. Let me get some samples for you, find some other opportunities, make sure that it's cost effective and it meets our needs. And then I cost it out. So let's see what our cost is, weigh it out. Then on the other side for patient focused care, now we're looking at diets. You're like, hey, we have a diabetic diet, we have renal, and that's where my DTR credential comes in. I need to know these diets. I need to understand what's going on with our patients, what their needs are, and what our restrictions are. And then be able to build a menu that works both for a general diet and also works for our special diets. So then we can minimize costs. And in my role, I have to constantly just go through the inventory. I work in softwares that pretty much it's all homemade. So I create a software where you store the information so the information can be taken inventory of and generate orders and manage a lot of stuff. It's just a lot, but you're connecting dots in nutrition.
Yeah. And it also sounds like it kind of, you build up some skills from your last job that seem like they're kind of seeping into this one. But I'm curious, when you applied to that job, were you thinking an NDTR job, or what attracted you to apply to the position? Or was it the nutrition in the title?
I think it was, so yeah, so I wanted to work for a local entity. I realized, it says EOS webcam
All right,
utility.
yep. I'm back. All right, let's cut again and start.
Sorry. Cut twice. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to work. I think what drew me to this new job opportunity was leaving the for-profit job and going for a more local job that provided to the community in a deeper level, because that's what I want. That's what I loved working in schools. And I did sign a non-compete, so I couldn't work for another school district. So I had to work for a hospital. That was the stress. But once I got in there, I realized it's a completely different ball game. I was already 4 years out of school, so I had to really freshen up on diets. I was like, okay, patience, got it. And once I did that, I was able to even provide better care for my patients indirectly, because I don't really actually talk to them too much, but be able to make product selections and vendor relationships that work best for the needs of our patient population.
Yeah. I'm proud. I'm sure the dietitian is like thrilled to have somebody who like understands and is putting the work in to understand the diets. Cause correct me if I'm wrong, but do you need to be an NDTR to have that position, or is that just an extra?
No, it's definitely, you don't need to have an NDTR to be a director of nutrition or to be a purchasing manager. I just think that it's helped me in my roles, and I'm very grateful to have it, because like I said before, if I was applying and I didn't have it, if there was a person with more experience, maybe that person would have gotten it. But the credential, it's something that people know, especially in healthcare. I mean, I was interviewed by registered dietitians and they saw, oh, you're an NDTR. It means you can figure things out for us. Okay. Like that's what they told me. Almarie, you're an NDTR. You can figure out the product subs, especially when we had crazy supply chain, which we still have. And I'm trying to make drastic patient changes, like patient menu changes by myself at 4 p.m. in the office. My credential was what justified my work, because the RDs were like, you got this. I trust you.
I love that. That is, and that's like, listen, like take notes. That is like such a good golden nugget. Cause a lot of times when you're looking for jobs as an NDTR, you're looking for that NDTR thing. but like the jobs you found did not require it, but like benefited so much from that. And if we can get
Yes.
more NDTRs and roles like that, people will be like aware, and it's like, well, we would like NDTRs. They would know more. And so that's awesome. And the interview process, to have dietitians there who respected and knew what the credential was.
Yes.
Oh, that
It was
gives such
cool.
hope. Yeah, yeah. So so this is the current job you're working now, right? As you had said.
Yes.
But what, so career sounds very fulfilling and sounds like you're
Yeah.
doing really impactful work. So what was the switch, or what was the trigger for you to apply to the dietetic internship?
Well,
Spill the
I
beans.
knew, yeah, well, I knew from when I left the school districts that my passions were still nutrition, gardening, sustainability, and education, and overall wellness. So when I got into the hospital job, I knew I wasn't going to be doing that every day. And it's, don't get me wrong, I love the hospital. The opportunities have been amazing. I've grown. Actually, I'm actually about to get promoted, which is kind of weird. Yeah, I
That's
know.
amazing.
It's amazing. I feel really bad, I but I have to think about my life and think about my goals and the impact that I want to make. I just see myself doing stuff in the garden. I see myself having an outdoor classroom through a community garden where I bring my clients and I just, you know what, let's just forget this meeting. Let's go to the garden. Let me just show you how to do it. So you can do it at home with your kids. Okay. So easy. But for me personally, gardening hasn't been super easy. It's been a lot of trial and error. So I want people to learn from my mistakes and make it easy, especially for those low income community, because that's what I worked in the districts and I saw such a need and I wanted to go back to that. And I knew if I was an RD, I can have a better opportunity at getting to my goal faster, having my own business and doing that.
Yeah. You are such an inspiration for not staying complacent. Like you never got stuck in any of the jobs. It sounds like you had. It was a little uncomfortable in the wrong way. And then it led you to be uncomfortable in the right way and then grow. And then you're still growing in this spot, and you could easily stay and kind of be
Oh,
complacent, but you keep that passion, that goal in mind. And I think that's just so encouraging, so encouraging. And I hope we can all learn from that, not to stay complacent, but
no,
to keep your
don't.
original goals in mind.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, especially I don't know, for me, I know how happy I was when I was with little kids in the garden. Like the joy that I had, like I really just wanted to be with those kids out there. I really wanted to pull weeds with them. And I have a garden here in my own house, and my favorite part of the day is coming home, saying hi to the dogs, and running to my garden and seeing how my strawberries are doing, or how my asparagus is doing, or how my tomatoes are doing. It's just what I love doing. And I just want to make that my whole life. And I feel like if I'm stuck 40 hours or more a week doing something I'm not 100% at, I just don't feel like that's the way to live life, you know?
Yeah.
If you have a really short amount of time to work, so do it, do what you want to do.
Do
Do
what
what
you
makes you
love.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't be drawn by the money. That is honestly,
Yeah.
it's so encouraging um, to hear, because it's very easy, especially in this field, to just find a job that's good and stick with it and then retire and not be happy with what
Yeah.
you're doing.
And it's hard once you have a job to get out. And I'm not gonna lie.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of the times when I would have applied for an RD credential sooner, but I was scared about the financial burden. Even then, even after many years of working, having a savings account, I was like, it just seems impossible. And this opportunity came around, and it was kind of crazy because my dicus, it completely crashed the night of when I was supposed to turn in. It was all done, and I decided to change my resume because I updated one line. And when I uploaded it, it didn't upload. And I was crying for hours. All my friends logged into Dicus. It was a mess. But the VA internship doesn't require Dicus. So that's when I knew this is a sign. This is a sign. And then I got in.
Wait, okay, yeah. So let's talk about that, because the VA internship is, they have them all over the country, but the spots are not that many, and they give you a stipend, and so it's very competitive. And so like What was that process? Like, how was did they interview you? Can you tell us some of the
Yeah.
details?
So, okay. So when I decided to apply for the internship, it was it February 15th, I think, which is, oh, February 14th, which is the day before the deadline.
Yeah. Wait, what? Oh
It
my
was kind of
gosh.
like I was having a crappy day, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it.
Talk about living your life on the edge. Oh my, I don't, okay. Yeah. How did you do that?
Okay, well, the good thing is that I went through that crisis the year before, so I already had done a lot of the work.
Okay.
Same time, I was going through that same crisis at work, and I was like kind of already halfway done with it. I just needed a few more letters of recommendation and my personal statement. So I grabbed my friend who, after 8 years of being out of school, is in a dietetic internship. So she was the one who made me believe that there is hope. And I was like, dude, you need to help me now. You're in it now, and you don't know any medical nutrition therapy. Well, you didn't last year. Now you know everything. So
Uh-huh.
you help me with everything. So she honestly encouraged me to apply. She was on the phone with me for hours that day, just like, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. I'm gonna send you everything. So I thankfully I was not alone in the process. But I just decided to apply. I had emailed the VA internship lady from Puerto Rico, because I'll be doing it in Puerto Rico. And she had actually extended the deadline for me for a few more days, since I didn't know, like, I knew that I had to turn it in, but I didn't know that they didn't use DICUS. So I pretty much had to redo DICUS and complete it by hand for the VA.
Oh my
So
gosh.
when
Guys, that's a lot of work.
I was
That's a
like,
lot of
wait,
work.
you don't do dikes? That's why she extended it, and just because she didn't know, and I didn't know. And so I was very fortunate to have that extension, and I worked hard and I turned it in way early. I didn't pretty much I didn't sleep. I didn't do much. I just worked on this for the few days that she gave me. And after crying over dikes not working.
I don't like diecast. It's a mess. And you didn't even need to use it. That's nice.
Yeah, well, I still had finished it, so it kind of sucks. But then I got into submitted the application, and a few weeks later, then they asked me for an interview, which was very nerve-wracking because I knew they were going to ask nutrition questions.
Yeah. Do you
That
remember
was
some of the things they asked you? How did that
Yes, yeah,
go?
yeah. So thankfully it wasn't too complicated, but man, I don't even remember now, which kind of sucks. But it was general questions like calculate your BMI and like figure out what was it? Oh my gosh, I think I have my notes somewhere. But it was like the PES statement, like how
Yeah.
when you're doing medical nutrition therapy, kind of talk about the steps, the assessment, and all that stuff. I had read up a lot to prepare for this.
Yes.
And then they asked for specific diets, like what was it diets? So I just read up on some nutrition recommendations for gastrointestinal diets. And they asked, like, what kind of diet would you have for this GI problem? And I just answered it. It was actually, the questions were multiple choice through a survey monkey, which made it easier. And you were not recorded at that time. So I took a breath and I took my time, did the math, answered it. And then the rest of the questions were just personal about me and my goals. But I think it only had like 5 questions, and they weren't too complex. It was way easier than what I actually thought, because I was studying gluconeogenesis. I was like, okay,
Get into the
hi,
real science of
okay.
biochem.
I was like, organic chemistry, come back to me.
Right. Oh man. So it wasn't face to face, it was like a questionnaire.
So the meeting started on a Teams call. So we did a 20-minute meeting. They just wanted to get to know me. They had a few questions like, what would you do if you had an employee that didn't behave this way? Or
You're
have you
probably so good at those. That was
oh
like
yeah, I was
easy.
like,
You're like, let me tell you. Sit down, take notes.
should I tell you about it yesterday or the day before, or should I about last week? Because I have like Let me just tell
So
you.
many
So
examples.
I think that made it easier working as a manager. I feel comfortable in an interview setting. I feel comfortable interviewing people. I know how to answer these general questions because they happen every day in my life. So I think that it gave me plenty of encouragement to feel comfortable in that part of the interview. And then the hard part, I will say, is that since I applied for the San Juan internship in Puerto Rico, everything was in Spanish.
Wow, are you fluid? Do you know you speak?
Mm, I'm like Spanglish.
It's coming back to you. That's impressive though, but
It was like
you'll be good by the
it
end of the
was
internship.
Spanglish the whole time, and I'm like, I am so sorry. I would say I'm so sorry in English, and then try to explain it, and then I would get stuck, and then say it in English, and I'm like continuing in Spanish.
Spanglish. Yep, that's exactly it. Oh
I was
man.
like, but their program is generally in English. I think they just wanted to make sure that you can talk to patients that speak Spanish. And so I am from Puerto Rico. I have my whole family's there. And that's why my aunt actually went to that. She's a dietitian and she went to the VA internship program. So I just felt like I was going to do good.
Yeah, yeah. That's great. That just your whole story with like the work you've done and then this internship and then, using your strengths and finding that connection there. And that's probably so sweet. Your aunt's probably, if you told her or when you do tell her, she's going to be so like proud of her niece doing like in the same steps as her. So can you explain what the VA internship looks like? Every program is a little different. So what are you
Yeah.
anticipating for them?
So this VA internship is in Puerto Rico in the Caribbean healthcare systems, which is the only VA in all of practically Central America. So anyone that's military and needs care, they would generally be sent there. The VA in Puerto Rico has a strong focus in spinal cord injuries, as well as cardiology. So that VA internship will be very focused on those specific needs for patients, maybe patients that aren't able to move and able to do some of the things that other people can do. But it is a well-rounded program that goes through all of your other rotations, like even working in school district, working for Head Start, and doing some community sustainability programs. So I was like, yeah, I'll do a little
That's
bit of
for
that.
me.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, that's the one. And some other projects. So it looks like Monday through Thursday, you are in the hospital doing your rotations. And I feel every rotation will last about 2 weeks in each topic. And then after that, on Friday, you are just go to the hospital and you're doing some educational courses with the registered dietitians. And it is a
Nice.
52-week long program.
Oh, okay. That's a full year, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a full
full
year.
year.
Yeah, it is a year. I know they
So,
said it to me and I'm like, a year? Why can't you say a year?
why is it so long?
Why
What?
52?
Yeah, they always do weeks. I don't know why they do that, but a year sounds scary. 52 weeks sounds like, oh yeah, is it a year? I don't know. Do you think you'll stay in Puerto Rico since you have family and connections there, or is your heart more in Texas or Arizona?
Well, I'm actually married and I own a home in Texas.
Okay.
So I can't really just be like, bye, babe.
Bye.
No, so I will just leave my pets and my husband behind, which is kind of crazy and wild, but and then move with my aunt. I'll be moving and living with my aunt, and my grandma will be taking me to the internship. But in general, I feel like in a dream world, I'll be really happy to stay in Puerto Rico and start some sustainability, like nutrition, gardening stuff over there.
Mhm.
But most likely we'll come back because I own a home here.
Yeah, you have a little bit some roots there. That's also
Yes.
that's a good point that you brought up. I know when you're doing the internship later on in life after you've worked in sometimes the relationships and the roots and stuff is hard. So there definitely is a bit of a sacrifice that happens. So it's great that your husband is supporting you in such a big step in your career.
Yes. Yeah, he's truly being an all-star. And I mean, he also will get to go to Puerto Rico a lot. He gets to work from home. So hopefully he can come a lot.
You might be
It's like
selling your house. I don't know. You might
yeah,
be
I am. Like, what are we gonna do with
relocating
the
to Puerto
furniture?
Rico. It's fine. You get your ship, but it's okay. No, I'm kidding. So with your time being in a DTR, it's been 6 years. It sounds like you've had a really positive experience, but I still want to ask, has there been anything that's been frustrating or annoying or just hard about holding this credential and holding the workspaces that you were as an NDTR?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of times that I felt a lot of frustrations, because and that's why I'm doing the internship because I feel like I want to do my own thing. I want to have my own business, and I've looked to do it as an NDTR, and it is possible. You can become a health coach and combine it, and you can succeed in that way. But I think it would take a lot of time and have a larger network to be able to succeed in that versus having the RD credential and being able to work for another company, maybe part-time, and starting populating your own clients sounds a little bit easier because the credential is more well-known. I think the frustration is that to the general public, NDTR doesn't mean anything unless
Yeah.
you're educating them on what it is. And so right now, I think we are at a time where our program needs to continue to grow, and we as NDTR continue to educate the public on what we can do. And, you know, NDTRs can do a lot, especially if you're providing care for just well people. You can help them continue to stay well. But once you get to the diets and the, ill people, you need to have an RD to sign off on what you're doing. And for me, I am a very like independent person. So I don't want to feel locked down in any way. I want to feel free to do anything and free to be able to help anyone. I don't want to just focus on certain people and be restricted. So that's been my biggest frustrations as an NDTR. It's the lack of power to do my own thing. And maybe that's just an idea I've put in my head. I'm sure there's NDTRs that have succeeded and have gotten other certifications to kind of add on. But I just think that for me personally, I can create my goals a little bit faster if I become an RD and utilize all of my experience on top of an NDTR to make it happen.
Yes, I think I totally relate to that. I mean, it's frustrating too. I think you can do so much with the NDTR credential, and we have spotlights of NDTRs who have done a lot, but there is, like you said, that stigma or that just lack of understanding. I'm hoping that changes with the Academy talking more about it, and then this podcast and Dietetic Central and NDTRs being more active. But there is definitely just me myself being an NDTR and then going to a dietitian, like it's just easier to find things because it's so well known. So you have to work a little bit less hard. So that's
Yes.
just the reality of it. That's the reality of it right now, unfortunately. So hopefully that'll change. So really, yeah, I totally understand that frustration. And I love that you did the research onto if you could do it as an NDTR before you stepped into this year commitment to become a dietitian, but it definitely does accelerate things. Really
Yeah,
does.
and it's going to be a hard year, but I also wanted to have the experience in working in a clinical setting because I haven't done that. I've been working food service management, dealing with education, basic stuff. But if I'm going to provide actual care for patients in the future and have my own business, I want to have experience in doing that. And I would like to work as an RD for someone else until I feel 100% comfortable with it. I just wouldn't want to be like, I'm just gonna figure it out and give you bad care.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds horrible.
That's not okay. That is a terrible
Not
name for
okay.
you.
That's horrible. So
Yeah.
I want to put myself through this 1 year test, and I want to learn as much as I can and absorb everything about nutrition and relearn. It's actually a lot of relearning, because rough. I've been out of it for a while. So it's thankfully I do have a nice community of friends that either are RDs and have awesome study guides, or my friend that's currently in the internship right now. She's like, I'm studying for the RD exam and you're studying to get ready for the internship. So I'm like, perfect.
I love that community. I wanted to ask, because you've been out for so long, did you have to retake some classes before you applied or? Okay.
No, I didn't. Thankfully, the VA internship that I'm doing does not require the master's. And also why I wanted to do it now is because it's the last year to do it. I'm so sorry for whoever listens to this. But you will need a master's after, I think in 2023. If past 2023, December 2023, you need a master's in order to get your RD credential. And so I didn't want to spend the money. I just don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And with
Like,
all your experience in the work before, it's like you already
right.
have so much already.
Yeah,
So sometimes it doesn't make sense. I understand right out of school, it's helpful for
right.
sure. But when you have a career that's already built up, it's like, oh, you got in just in time. That's not, that is
That is
nice.
also why I was like, okay, I need to do this. Here's what, otherwise I need to get a master's.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Just get
sound
it
easy.
done. Yeah.
It was like more delay, but so I really took the opportunity to just take advantage of the last time, and I was totally fine if I didn't get it. I was like, you know what, if I don't get it, it's okay. I'll get a master's, I'll continue to learn. And it was fine. Like honestly, I wasn't gonna be disappointed either way, but now I'm very grateful that I get to be part of the last one of the few last rounds, and the internship is paid and I get to move back with my family. So it sounds pretty great.
Honestly, it sounds like a win-win. That's going to make the internship so much less stressful because it's so hard because you're just putting yourself out there constantly just to learn and absorb. And the things you're learning are just, it's foreign language when you first start and when you're in there. So yeah, I'm happy that you have so many good, um, so much community around you to be successful in it. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask one more question for you, just with your experience with Arizona, Texas, and now going to Puerto Rico. But what has been your experience with diversity in this field? And that's any way you want to interpret it. It's cool that you worked with students, and so kind of just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, diversity in this field. That's a good question because the first time I ever heard of a nutritionist was my aunt. My aunt has been a registered dietitian her whole life. And so I grew up knowing what it was, seeing her do her work in Puerto Rico as a little girl.
Uh-huh.
And then moving to Arizona, getting into one of the largest nutrition programs in the nation at ASU. I definitely was an outcast because I was super outgoing, A type personality.
Mhm.
Like I just feel like I was generally an outcast because I just didn't mesh well. But I made a large community of friends because I was like, I don't really care to learn from you too. And so diversity, I think I felt like an outcast being Latina, coming into this program, personality wise. But I honestly didn't let it get to me. And now that I'm in Texas, the way that I see diversity, it's that generally the population that is more health focused, I would say it's greater in Arizona versus Texas. Have you seen what they're eating over here? Yeah,
Wow.
so I definitely feel like we need more dietitians over here. We need more people working in this field and educating them because
Mhm.
I would say Arizona is more advanced in the population and what they eat, what's around them, like the restaurants. Here, got a lot of work to do, which makes me feel like there is a larger opportunity for growth for the people that are trying to get into dietetics in
Yeah,
Texas. So I
that's
think that it can
amazing.
grow here. I think we can be more diverse, people from different backgrounds. I mean, Texas is booming, so
Mhm.
we need to jump in.
And yeah, I love when you can go into a state or like a county and you're like, oh, we need a dietitian here. Like let's just make everyone healthy real quick. That's the true heart of a DTR or a diet. Like that's you're in the right profession if you're thinking that way.
Yeah.
Also, really, I like the perspective of personality being different. I find dietetics or like in my experience as well, it's been very those like people who are very science heavy and they really like the science and they're very studious. And then like me, I'm like, oh, let's make a video. Let's have fun. I'm like, what you're saying, very outgoing. It's cool to see. Yeah, I totally relate to that.
Which is kind of funny because I actually got A's in all my chemistry classes and I consider changing to chemistry when I was in college. Like my counselor was like, "You're doing really good. Should you like try to change?" And I'm like, "Well, will I graduate at the same time?" She's like, "No, we'll add one more semester." And I was like, "No, I don't want to pay more. We'll just stick
I
with it.
yeah,
We'll just stick with this nutrition thing."
that is wow. To be strong in
Yeah.
chemistry and be outgoing. Not to say that chemists are not outgoing. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm making stereotypes.
I got in
but-
trouble. Yeah, I got in trouble for that. I actually worked in a lab for a whole year in fecal research when I was at Arizona State.
That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh, I love stools.
Me too. Bristol stool chart all the way.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'm always like asking people for their numbers. I'm like, what are we right now? After that meal? 3 or 4?
It's fine. Just tell me. I want to know.
Just like text it to me. Just text me numbers and I will know. But yeah, and I think that me being the person that I am, working in research, my directors and the PIs that I work for they sat down with me and they're like, "Oh, Marie, I don't really think this is right for you because you seem like to like other things." And I'm like, but I'm doing all the work you want me to do just because I am outgoing and I'm trying to build relationships with quiet people. Like, is that weird to you? Is that wrong? It's weird because they're telling me this and then they're offering me a job there. And I'm like, okay, so do you want me there or do you not? So that's when I decided out of anger, I applied for that food service internship. I was like, you know what? I'm over this research thing. I'm going to go do something else. But I definitely didn't fit into that like research person because they're very quiet. You're right. They're very studious. And I'm very social. I'm like relationships. Let's talk about it. Let's connect the dots. Let's have some coffee, but then let's get to it and work. Okay. So I'm very productive. So I think they didn't understand my both sides, that I'm a little bit of both, and they just got confused.
Yeah. Well, but I think that's going to make you so good at what your original goal is for that. It's just going to be so good at it because you're going to know the science, you're going to be able to do all that stuff, but then have those relationships. And so I feel like once you find your niche, like your true niche where your passion's fully there, you're going to be unstoppable. So it's going to be really awesome to see in the future. Anything else you want to share with us? Anything at all to the NDTR audience? You want to share?
I would just say, like, keep doing what you're doing. There's a ton of opportunities out there. Nutrition is everywhere. I always tell that to everybody. If you eat, you're part of nutrition already. So I feel like when a lot of my peers got stuck and they didn't know where to go and which direction, you really have to think outside the box. And there is nutrition, education, there's management, there's nutrition everywhere. So don't give up, be part of your community, even if it's through volunteering at food banks, and try to find your niche in your work because that's what's going to drive your passions. And I found it through all my work and stress, and I'm going to push for it, and hopefully I make it to the other side.
I think I am 100% sure that you will. And I do have to say, we were talking before we started recording, and on the back of the wall, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Almarie has her goals written just in her house on the back. So she's determined, she's going there. So thank you so much for your time, Almarie. How can people contact you, reach you, follow you on this journey?
Yeah, so I have a very simple, not fancy nutrition blog that I post what I eat sometimes and about my garden. On Instagram, it's at Oh So Easy Nutrition. You can follow me there. It's where I answer questions that not a lot of people ask, but I'm there to be your friend and to help you with your application. I'm here to help you with your resume, whatever you need. I'm usually a cheerleader, and if you need someone to pump you up about your job and nutrition, I'm here for you. So just find me at Oh So Easy Nutrition.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Thank you everyone so much for watching, listening. I really hope that you soaked up every single word that she said, and, not being stuck, even if you have a good job, like follow those passions, keep your goals in mind. And so, yeah, if you enjoyed this interview, give it a like, comment down below, and make sure you follow Oh Easy Nutrition Almarie on Instagram, and we'll see you in our next podcast. Hey, NDTR listeners, thank you so much for listening to that podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to listen to other spotlights we have. We cover all different types of topics, from clinical to community to private practice on this podcast. Also, Give our merch store a check out so you can support the podcast, so you can keep spotlighting really awesome NDTRs and NDTR topics. And lastly, I have to ask for a subscription, a like, or a comment. We'd love to hear your input so that it just encourages us to keep going and keep spotlighting NDTRs.